Welcome to English Treasure. Hello, my name's Aidan and I'm an English teacher. Today we'd like to continue with our videos helping you learn how to study English. One of the most pressing questions that Vietnamese English learners have is, how do I choose a teacher or a school at which to learn English? This is a difficult question because there are a lot of teachers who claim to be very, very good at English. And there have recently been certain scandals about teachers who were being less than honest about their abilities. When choosing an English teacher, there are two things that you need to look for. The first is, how good is the teacher at English? You would normally expect a teacher to be better than you at a subject they're teaching. And when you're studying for the IELTS exam, for example, you would expect the teacher to be better at English than the score that you are aiming for. So if you are aiming for a score of 6.5, you would expect your teacher to have an IELTS score, or equivalent, that is higher than 6.5. How much higher? Well, there is no real rule for this. My suggestion, based on the criteria for the IELTS and the criteria for the European Framework for Languages, is that the teacher's IELTS score should be 1.5 or 2 points higher than the score that you are aiming for. So if you want a score of 6.5, you would want a teacher who has a score of 8 or 8.5. If you're aiming for 7.5, you would want a teacher who has a score of 9, or who is a native English speaker, or someone who has lived and studied in an English-speaking country for a number of years. Now, why would this be? Why is it important that your teacher be that much better than the standard that you want to reach? It's because English is a very complicated language when you get to the higher levels. It has lots of rules, and it's quite easy to become basically functional in English. When you reach the higher levels, you need to know a lot of complicated rules, a lot of exceptions to those rules, and a lot of things that English speakers say that don't follow any rules at all. You not only need to know the rules for when something is right, but you need to know all the different ways in which it can be wrong. And you need to know the ways that it can look wrong, but still be right. This means you need to know a lot more about English than what you are teaching. I don't know if that makes sense. But that's the situation. You need to know a lot more about the language than you are trying to teach. So if you're aiming for an IELTS score of 7, you need a teacher who has a score of 8.5 or 9. The second thing that you need to look for in a teacher or school is whether they know how to teach. I have seen very little discussion when people are asking about, should I use this teacher? Should I go to that school? About whether the teachers have been taught how to teach. Teaching is not just a case of knowing your subject and telling other people what you know. Anyone who has ever trained to be a teacher, anyone who's ever tried to teach for an extended period, will understand that teaching is a skill. There are techniques involved, and there are theoretical principles that you need to understand. You need to know how people learn so that you can teach in the best way for them to learn. If a teacher only needed to know the subject in order to teach you, then a teacher is no better than a book. A teacher needs to understand how you learn and needs to be able to give you the information that you need in a way that allows you to learn it. So you need to ask the teacher or the school, where did you learn how to teach? Who trained you how to teach? If you have a foreigner teaching you, if a foreigner is working as a teacher in Vietnam, that foreigner has to have a teaching certificate in order to get a visa. It's a legal requirement now for foreign English teachers. And you should be looking for the same thing from a Vietnamese English teacher. Where did you learn to teach? Who trained you to teach? Do you have a certificate? Did you train under a group of teachers who helped you to develop? Can you teach me? This is more important than whether your teacher knows how to speak English. So, when choosing an English teacher or an English school, you need to ask two questions. Is the teacher's English good enough to get me to the level I want to be at? And does the teacher know how to teach? Just having an IELTS certificate isn't enough. It's a good start, but the teacher also needs to be able to teach. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again. Bye. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, like it. If you learned from it, share it with your friends. And if you loved it, subscribe to the channel.